Thomas walked toward Sarah's largest painting in the hall. The very same painting Oliver Wilder's spirit had emerged from. Oliver's spirit, with that same evil smile, appeared in the painting again, this time with even more power. His eyes glowed with rage. Thomas could feel that Oliver was furious at his presence, furious that he dared to touch his art. The sound of whispers grew louder and began to take shape. You cannot destroy what is immortal." Oliver's voice, deep and eerie, seemed to come from all directions, as if the house itself was speaking to him. Thomas moved toward the painting and tried to pull it off the wall, but the moment his hand touched the frame, a powerful electric shock surged through him. Thomas screamed and jumped back. The painting vibrated strangely. A purple light radiated from it. Oliver was protecting his art. He had turned the paintings into traps. Thomas now realized he couldn't simply touch the paintings, let alone destroy them. Thomas gripped the Jacob doll, which he had brought with him, tight in his hand. Eleanor had said that Jacob was a vessel for the soul of Oliver's friend, and the source of his power. Thomas had to find a way to destroy the doll. But with every step he took, the walls seemed to close in. Shadows moved in the corners of the rooms. This house was a psychological battlefield. Thomas went to the kitchen. He was looking for something to help him destroy the doll. A knife, fire, anything. But he knew he had to act carefully. Any wrong move could fuel Oliver's rage even more. In one of the cabinets, he found a bottle of kerosene. Kerosene could help. He soaked the Jacob doll in kerosene and placed it on the sink. The moment Thomas was about to light the match, a loud scream echoed from the hallway. A scream that sounded exactly like Lily. Thomas hesitated for a second. Was this a trick, or had Lily somehow returned? He abandoned the kerosene and the doll and ran quickly toward the sound. In the hallway, there was nothing, only long shadows and whispers that now sounded like moans of pain. Thomas realized Oliver was trying to play with his mind, to deceive him. He sprinted back to the kitchen, but the scene he saw made the breath catch in his chest. The Jacob doll, soaked in kerosene, was now dancing on the floor. It was moving on its own, jerking with quick, inhuman motions toward the kitchen door. Its glass eyes were glowing, and an evil laugh echoed from it. Jacob was looking for Lily. He wanted to reconnect with her, and through her, seize total control. Thomas ran at the doll with all his might, trying to stop it. Jacob dodged him with unnatural agility. A strange, twisted battle broke out in the kitchen. A man, chasing a cursed wooden doll. Thomas finally managed to smash the doll against the wall. With every blow, the doll let out scream-like sounds. At that very moment, the paintings around the kitchen began to shake. The faces inside them came alive, wailing and screaming. The walls trembled. Dishes fell from the shelves. Oliver was furious that his friend was being hurt. Through the paintings, he had mobilized the power of the house. With all his might, Thomas smashed the doll into the corner of the kitchen. This time, with the sound of cracking wood, the doll stopped. Its glass eyes cracked and lost their shine. The dark energy radiating from it suddenly faded. The Jacob doll was destroyed. With the destruction of Jacob, the moaning sounds in the house stopped for a moment. A strange silence took over, but this silence wasn't peace. It was the calm before the storm. The paintings on the walls now glowed with even greater fury. The spirit of Oliver Wilder, without the Jacob doll, no longer had a direct bridge to control Lily. But his power within the house remained intact. He was now angrier and more dangerous. Thomas knew that by destroying Jacob, he had only won a small part of the battle. The real battle had just begun. He had to find and destroy all of Sarah's paintings and Oliver's original works. But how? When every painting was a trap, he had to find a way to neutralize their power. Eleanor had given Thomas a small wooden object, but she hadn't told him how to use it. Thomas had to find a way to use Eleanor's talisman, a way to protect himself against the maddening power of Oliver Wilder's art. This house had turned into a massive canvas, a canvas that could paint the end of his life at any moment. The Wilder mansion. now looked more like a furious living creature than a house. With every wall, every tremor, and every whisper, it threatened Thomas's very existence. Destroying the Jacob doll had only fanned the flames of Oliver's rage. Sarah's paintings, covering the entire house, now glowed with dark energy, oozing terror and curses from every canvas. Thomas knew he didn't have much time. He had to find Oliver's original paintings and destroy them. But first, he had to find a way to neutralize his artistic traps. Thomas remembered Eleanor's words. Oliver believed he could absorb spiritual energy through objects that belonged to people. That sentence sparked an idea in Thomas's mind. If Oliver absorbed spiritual energy through objects, maybe he could release it too. Eleanor's wooden talisman was still in Thomas's hand. He stared at it, carved with unintelligible shapes. It looked like something from an ancient ritual. He remembered Eleanor saying this talisman could protect against spirits. But how? Thomas began searching the house. He was looking for any old object, any sign that could lead him to Oliver's original paintings. He entered Oliver's old study, a room smelling of stale paper and ink, shelves filled with old books, but not ordinary books. These looked more like books on magic and alchemy. Thomas picked up one of the books. Its pages were full of complex writings and strange diagrams. This was Oliver's personal journal. In it, he wrote of his experiments, of trying to trap souls, and of creating living canvases. In one of the pages, Oliver mentioned a place called the Reflection Chamber, a hidden room in the mansion where he kept his most powerful works. A room meant to be a gateway to the spirit world. This was where Thomas had to go. Oliver wrote that entering this room required an artistic key, a key activated by the reflection of light and darkness. This sentence confused Thomas. While searching the study, his eyes fell on a small painting on the wall, an image of an old candlestick placed next to a mirror. The painting was drawn with specific elegance, and it seemed light and darkness were blended artistically within it. Thomas walked toward the painting. He noticed it sat slightly off the wall. He touched the back of the painting. There was a small, hidden button. This was the artistic key. Thomas pressed the button. With a loud creaking sound, part of the bookshelf slid aside, revealing a dark, hidden corridor. The smell of dampness and dead earth wafted out. This was the reflection chamber. Thomas entered the corridor with his lantern lit. It was narrow and long, leading to a small room. As soon as Thomas entered the chamber, the door behind him slammed shut with a terrifying bang. He was plunged into absolute darkness. His lantern suddenly died. Thomas was trapped in pitch blackness. Oliver's evil laugh echoed through the entire room. "Welcome, uninvited guest. Here, my art will drown you." Thomas was terrified, but he tried to keep his cool. He squeezed Eleanor's wooden talisman tight. Suddenly, faint purple lights radiated from the walls. These lights came from paintings covering the entire chamber walls. Paintings much older and more powerful than Sarah's. These were Oliver's original paintings. Every painting showed a face full of pain and suffering, looking as if they were screaming. The spirits inside them were alive. With horror, Thomas realized that in the center of the chamber stood a large, ancient mirror. This was Oliver's main mirror. The mirror he believed could be the bridge between worlds. The reflection of the purple lights fell upon the mirror, showing vague, dark images of spirits trying to cross over. Suddenly, a thin, pale hand reached out from one of the paintings, a hand reaching toward Thomas. Thomas jumped back in terror. The spirits were trying to escape their prisons. Oliver's laugh echoed in the room again. "They will be free soon, and you will become part of my collection." Thomas looked at Eleanor's wooden talisman. He had to find a way to use it. He remembered Eleanor saying it could provide protection. With a sense of desperation, Thomas pointed the talisman at one of the paintings. To his surprise, the moment the talisman pointed at the painting, it began to shake, and its purple light faded. A faint scream was heard from inside the painting. The talisman worked. This object was capable of neutralizing the spirit's power. Thomas started moving quickly around the chamber, pointing the talisman at every painting he could. With every gesture, The paintings began to tremble and fade. The sounds of moans and screams grew weaker and more pained. He was destroying the spirit's power. But this act pushed Oliver's rage to its peak. The mirror in the center of the chamber began to glow intensely. Oliver's shadow, with eyes wide with rage and madness, appeared in the mirror. You cannot destroy my art. I am immortal." Oliver's voice now sounded more like the roar of a wild beast. Through the mirror, he threw a blast of dark energy at Thomas. Thomas fell to the ground. The talisman slipped from his hand and was thrown into a corner. Thomas knew he no longer had the chance to neutralize all the paintings. He had to destroy the main mirror, the mirror that was the gateway and the source of Oliver's main power. But the mirror was protected by Oliver's force, and breaking it wouldn't be simple. He had to find a way to face Oliver's direct power. This was his last chance. The final battle, in the heart of Oliver's madness, had begun. Thomas lay on the floor, gasping for air. Oliver's dark energy pressed down on his chest like an invisible weight. Eleanor's wooden talisman lay in a corner, far out of reach. The purple lights from the surrounding paintings glowed with terrifying power, and the images of struggling souls became clearer. The central mirror shone with a blinding light, and the shadow of Oliver Wilder within it was now almost solid. His evil smile screamed victory. "You cannot stop me, you foolish detective." Oliver's voice didn't just fill the room. It echoed inside Thomas's mind. "I have created immortal art. I will become the god of this world." Thomas struggled to his feet. He knew he had no time to grab the talisman or neutralize the paintings one by one. The only way was to destroy the source of Oliver's power, that massive central mirror. But how could he get close when Oliver was guarding it with such immense force? Thomas's eyes darted to a shelf of old tools in the corner. Tools Oliver had used for his art. Among them, a large, heavy metal hammer stood out. This was his only weapon against Oliver's artistic madness. Thomas sprinted toward the hammer with everything he had. But Oliver was faster. Invisible hands reached out from the paintings on the walls, trying to grab Thomas. These were the souls Oliver had trapped, now forced to serve as his soldiers. Thomas dodged, barely tearing himself free from their grip. He grabbed the hammer. Its heavy weight in his hand brought a surge of power back to him. Hammer in hand, Thomas marched toward the great mirror. Oliver's shadow stared back with even more rage and insanity. Once again, Thomas was hit by a blast of dark energy. The pain was sharper this time. He fell to his knees, but he did not let go of the hammer. He thought of Lily and Sarah. He could not give up. With a scream of fury and will, Thomas rose again. This time, before Oliver could strike. Thomas hurled the hammer at the mirror with all his might. The hammer flew through the air, but just before impact, a shimmering, invisible wall appeared. The hammer slammed into the barrier with a deafening clang and fell to the floor. The mirror remained untouched. Oliver was protecting his art. Even with an invisible shield, Thomas felt a wave of despair, but then he froze. He looked around. Sarah's paintings. Those horrific images Sarah had been forced to paint under Oliver's control. Maybe the power of these paintings was both an opportunity and a weakness. Thomas realized Oliver used them to gather energy. What if he turned that energy back on him? He grabbed the hammer and rushed toward one of Sarah's paintings hanging on the chamber wall. It was a glowing image of a terrified face. With all his strength, Thomas smashed the hammer right into the center of the canvas. A loud scream erupted from the painting. The canvas tore, and its purple light instantly vanished. But the extinguished light didn't disappear. Instead, it shot straight toward the central mirror and slammed into it. A small crack appeared on the glass. Oliver's shadow looked at the crack in horror. "No, my art!" Thomas knew he had found the way. Sarah's paintings, tainted by Oliver's own energy, were now the counter-weapon. They were gateways Oliver had opened, and now Thomas was slamming them shut in his face. Thomas moved with speed, destroying Sarah's paintings one after another. Every time a canvas tore, the energy shot back to the mirror, creating a new crack. Oliver's screams echoed through the room. He couldn't protect himself because this was his own art attacking him. He was trapped by the very thing he had created. As the final painting was destroyed, the massive mirror shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces with a thunderous sound. It wasn't just physical glass breaking. It felt like reality itself was snapping in that spot. The purple lights vanished instantly, the shadow of Oliver Wilder, amidst the broken shards, screamed in madness and pain before turning into a pile of ash and darkness. Nothing of him remained. With the mirror gone and Oliver's spirit destroyed, the entire house fell silent. Absolute silence. But this time, it was a peaceful silence. Thomas's lantern flickered back to life. He looked around. Oliver's old paintings on the walls were now just dead images. The souls trapped inside were free. The reflection chamber was no longer a prison, just an old, dusty room. Thomas breathed heavily. His whole body ached. But a feeling of victory filled his soul. He had done it. He had ended the nightmare. He walked out of the chamber, down the dark corridor, and out of the Wilder mansion, stepping back into the world of the living. Thomas Mills, exhausted and wounded, but victorious, stepped out of the Wilder mansion. The light of dawn barely fought its way through the towering trees surrounding the estate to reach the ground. The cool, fresh morning air filled his lungs. The smell of dampness and dead earth had given way to the scent of dew and rich soil. In the morning silence, the Wilder mansion was no longer the terrifying fortress of the night before. It was just an old building, holding on to the bitter memories of the past. Thomas drove toward Dr. Collins' house. Lily and Sarah were waiting for him. When he arrived, Dr. Collins and Sarah rushed to meet him with worry written all over their faces. Sarah looked at Thomas's wounds and exhaustion with terror, but Thomas's eyes held a strange calm. "It is over, Sarah. It is over," he said, and forced a weak smile. Lily, who was now awake, saw her father and ran to him, jumping into his arms. She no longer had that pale, listless look. Her eyes sparkled with life and playfulness again. She didn't say a word about Mr. Shadow or her friends in the walls. Her nightmare had finally come to an end. But Sarah was still in shock. Thomas told her and Dr. Collins every detail of the final battle in the reflection chamber. He spoke of the paintings coming to life, the attacks by the spirits, and the destruction of the main mirror. Dr. Collins, a man of science, found it hard to believe. But the evidence and the change in Lily and Sarah made him think. He now knew that the world, beyond logic and science, holds hidden secrets. Sarah quietly pointed to her own paintings, those dark, terrifying images she had painted while possessed. Paintings that no longer held that dark, living energy. They were just dead images of a painter's madness. Sarah decided she would never paint darkness again. She wanted to return to a world of bright colors and hope. The world Oliver Wilder had tried to steal from her. The Mills family never returned to the Wilder mansion. That empty, terrifying estate was left behind forever. Thomas and Sarah decided to build a new home, full of light and life, for themselves and Lily. A home where no hidden whispers echoed from behind the walls, and no shadows danced in the mirrors. Years passed. Lily grew up to be a happy and smart young woman. She had no clear memory of the Wilder mansion nightmare, or perhaps she had buried it deep in her mind. But Sarah, every now and then, would look at those old paintings. She didn't hide them anymore. Instead, she used them as a reminder of the darkness she had survived. She started painting again, but this time, her art was full of light, color, and hope. She had defeated the darkness through her art. Thomas Mills was no longer just a logical engineer. He now believed in other dimensions of reality. He knew our world has hidden layers, invisible to the ordinary eye. He had become a hero, not with weapons or physical strength, but with courage and love for his family. He began a new life, but with a deeper understanding of the darkness and the light hidden behind it. The Wilder mansion remained empty for years. No one dared to live there again. The townspeople told strange stories about it, stories of ghosts and a mad painter still hiding in the walls. But Thomas knew there were no spirits left there, only memories of madness and the battle that had taken place. Life went on, but the Mills family never forgot those days. They knew darkness is always lurking, but with love and courage, it can be overcome. The end of the Wilder Mansion nightmare was the beginning of a new life for them. A life lived with a deeper knowledge of the boundaries between reality and the supernatural. Thomas, Sarah, and Lily now knew that darkness can hide anywhere, but the light of love and family is always stronger.